Today, you are going to learn about VuePress. Oh, and hey, I'd like to point out this video's awesome sponsor, Skillshare.com, which offers thousands of classes in design, coding, business, and more. For instance, you're about to watch my crash course on SaaS, but you could watch this full course about getting started with SaaS and improving your CSS workflow at Skillshare. Now, Skillshare is just $10 a month, but if you're the first 200 students to use my very exclusive link below in the description here on YouTube, then you get the first 2 months free. All right, so let's get started. Hey everyone, Gary Simon here, and today we're going to talk about VuePress. I'm going to show you how to use it from a very beginner's level perspective. It's a static site generated, and it's powered by Vue, obviously, as it's called VuePress. So it's official. It's from the people at Vue.js.org, obviously by the URL up here, vuepress.vuejs.org. And I'm going to show you exactly how to use this. And one of its powers and what it was originally built for is for creating documentation-based websites. So if you have a website or some type of app or a script that people can use, you can create documentation for it, and you can do so in Markdown format. So it takes your Markdown files, your .md files, like your readme.md file, and it converts it into like HTML. So it's a static site generator. It's really powerful. It has a lot of different stuff. It has a great guide, and we're going to take a look at some of this stuff. We have extensions down here. You can even add Google Analytics. It has service workers for caching. I mean, there's a lot of awesome stuff here that we're going to cover. And the thing is, because there's so much to cover in it, I can't cover everything. So for now, we're just going to take a look at the documentation and creating a real simple documentation site. In the future, I'll do other tutorials that will more expand on what you can do with it, because you can really customize it. You can make dynamic sites with it, essentially. And we'll get into that later on, though. I'll save that for later content. But anyways, I'm going to stop talking. Today's question, though, is how many monitors do you use while designing and or coding? So if you're a designer, how many monitors do you use? Is it just one? Are you old school, or do you have 2 or 3? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to let you know in my thoughts as well here in the comments, in a pinned comment. And make sure you subscribe, and let's get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use NPM, or the Node Package Manager, which means you're going to need Node.js installed on your machine. You can go to nodejs.org to install it, which automatically will include the Node Package Manager, which we invoke through the command line or console through NPM. So to do that, and you could do this anywhere because we're going to install it globally, NPM install, or you could just hit I, shorthand, -G for global, and then VuePress. I already just did this, so I'm not going to run it. And one caveat, by the way, we will be referring back to the official documentation, and that's at vuepress.vuejs.org. And there's really up here the 3 areas. Oh, by the way, this was made with VuePress, by the way. But by the way, up here at the top, we have a guide, we have a config reference, and we also have a default theme config area. These are the main areas you're going to want to concern yourselves when you're working with VuePress. I'm not going to be touching on all of these. I mean, it's quite robust. I'm not going to be doing it here in just a single tutorial. There would be multiple tutorials down the road. But one thing I wanted to mention is, in terms of the installation, one thing that you should be aware of, if we go to getting started and global installation, or inside an existing project, rather, we can see this warning sign. It's currently recommended to use Yarn, which is an alternative to NPM. We used NPM, though. Instead of NPM, when installing VuePress into an existing project that has Webpack 3.x as a dependency. All right, so just be aware of that if you want to do this, or add it to an existing project that has that. So after that's installed, boy, I'm talking too much, aren't I? We're going to make a directory. I'm going to call it VuePress, and then we're going to cd into VuePress. All right, and then also, this is coming straight from the documentation as well, because when it comes to VuePress, it uses Markdown files or .md files. So we're just going to create one real quickly, and I could do this through the command line. Just echo. This is going to be the contents of the readme.md file. All right. So then I'm going to type in code period to open up Visual Studio Code. That's my choice code editor. And we can see our README MD file is here and created. And then we can go ahead and run VuePress dev. All right, so it's going to start a server at localhost 8080, and it also has live reloading with it. And if I control click that, there we go. As you can see, it has a site here. It has like just an empty nav bar with a search button or search form area, and then the content of our README MD file. So what it does when we ran that command, and also when we run the VuePress build command, it will take the markdown files and convert them into index or whatever their name .html files. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on and try to start up here. We'll start at the top to figure out how we start filling this out. So the top part, let's say for instance we want a logo here, which is a standard convention for a web layout. Let's go to our code editor. All right. And inside of here, we're going to create a config file inside of a VuePress folder. All right, so new folder, .VuePress, and inside of there, we create a config.js file. All right, and inside of here, we're going to add a module.exports. Let me increase this just a bit. Control B to get rid of that sidebar. Equals .exports. That's why you have that red line. And inside of here, we're going to put in a title property with the value of whatever the name of your project is or whatever. I'm just going to put Corsetro. And then also we can put in description, and there's a bunch of other values we can put in, and you can check out the documentation reference for that. Just playing around, whatever. And that's it. So now when we save this, if it doesn't reload automatically, I found that when just making that specific change, I had to Control C to get out of there and then just rerun this real quick. And once it's ready, momentarily, a couple seconds, there it is. It's right there. And so, for instance, if I go back and I change it to I'll just put this full stack dev education, save it, or Corsetro training. I don't know. We'll save that. We'll see it did update that time. So by making a change to that config file the first time around, it didn't really update it. So now what? Well, how about, for instance, this is the same situation that we have set up here. This is a VuePress site. Well, how do we get these links, this top navigation to occur? All right. Well, we again work within this module exports config JS section. So we'll add a comma here, and then we're going to add a theme config object, and then we have a nav array of objects inside of here, and then we're going to put a first object which contains we have an object for each link that we want. So the text or the anchor text of that link would be let's say home, and the link pointing to it will just be the root. And then I'm going to hit down, Control Alt down just to replicate that 2 more times. We'll put in a guide right here. So we'll say we'll have the main index.html page, or in other words, whatever this page defines for our index.html, because remember this gets converted into an index.html. That would be kind of just like a rough little landing page, and then we'll have a guide where you actually have the documentation. All right, so we have that, we have the guide, and then just the fact that you can add like an external link about me, I don't know, whatever. We can put in, just http GarySimon.com, whatever. I don't even use that site anymore. It's been a long time since updating it, but just to show you, let's save that, and there we go. Home, guide, and about me with a nice little icon right there. All right, so now let's focus on the home page, like a landing page of sorts here. All right, so because if you're gonna have documentation, you might have like a headline, subheadline, a little bit of information about what this is. So let's do that real quick, and they make it super simple, of course. So what we'll do first, we're gonna have an image, like a logo, that's a part of this. So what we'll do is, for any type of assets that you want to create, we're going to create a public folder. And then inside of here, I'll just create another folder for images. And then we're going to use an image. You can use whatever image you want. I'm going to make available. And by the way, this will be there's a GitHub repo for this. You can access in the description here on YouTube, and you can grab the file there. I'm going to add a SVG file of the Corsetro symbol real quick. All right, and I've just paused and I found this file. It's 3dotsvector.svg. And so now at this point, now we have a graphic that we're going to use. We're going to go ahead and modify the readme.md right here. And just above this, we're going to put in this stuff right here. All right, so first of all, where did I get all this? All right, so this came from, let's see here, default theme config and homepage. See right here? So the default homepage provides a homepage layout with the homepage of this very website. So you'll see this is kind of what it will emulate out of the gate. And to use it, you specify home true plus some other metadata in your root readme.md's YAML Frontmatter. So all this stuff is what's called Frontmatter, all right? And then you can customize it based on your needs. So I already did that. I have /images, 3dots-vector for the hero image, the get started button text, you'll see, points to the guide. And then it has this 3 little features section, and the title and details is all just in reference to this right here. All right, so it's very, very template-y in this sense. But as you can see, when we do other tutorials, it's much more customizable if you want it to be. So we'll save this, and once again, we run into the issue where it's not reloading. So what I'll do is go back, rerun that. All right, now we'll go back, and here it is. Awesome, awesome stuff. Obviously, this is too big, the logo, but we're going to fix that, though, when we come to the CSS section. All right, so now we have this guide area up here, and the get started is going to a guide URL, but, of course, it doesn't work. Oh, and look, we have a nice built-in 404 page right there. So let's make that work. So how do we actually get, this working in a case where we want to, we actually have a /guide page? All right. So what we're going to do is create a guide URL just here in the root. So, or a guide folder rather. All right. And then inside of guide, we're going to have its own README, because remember, the readme.md, the markdown files, get converted to index.html files. So when you create folders and folder names, it's guide/index.html. So we'll put in readme.md. All right. And then inside of readme.md, I'm going to just paste in some real quick markdown stuff. So we have one called just with one hash sign called guide, and some text here. And then we also have a secondary one, which these get converted into H2 elements. This is H1. And this one's called other considerations, blah, 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 blah. So we can now save this. All right. And we're also going to create a frontend.md. And remember, whatever the name is outside of the readme.md files, this will get converted into a frontend.html file. All right, so we're also going to do a backend.md. And the reason I'm doing these is just to show you how we can create multiple pages, and you'll see in a second. So don't be confused by these names or anything. So what we'll do is I'm going to copy something off screen here just for a front end text. All right, all I have is just a simple, front end development H1 and then some text, and then I'll do the same thing right here. We'll just call this back end, and you'll see how this all comes together momentarily. All right, so we'll save this. We go back, and let's click on this, and there we go. So we click on the guide. We have our guide. stuff right there, and we have other considerations. That's our subheadline. So now, how do we get a sidebar? All right, so there's a few ways that we can do this. We can set in the config.js file a sidebar property to a value of auto. So let's try that first and see what happens. We'll go back, and we'll go to config.js, and we're going to simply add sidebar auto. Save it, go back. And is it doing that damn thing again where it's not updating? Ooh, auto is not defined. My bad, my bad, my bad, my bad. I forgot to wrap it in quotes here. So let me go back. All right. There we go. So automatically it's generating this sidebar navigation based on the current page that we're at, which is guide, and based on our H2 element, it's created a link here. And so when you click on it, it's just going to take you to that section of the page. Obviously, you can't see much happening because we don't have enough text to push this down, but it's just a way of navigation through here. There's another way, though, that we can customize it even further and have more control over it. All right, so and by the way, all this stuff's in the documentation, in the official VuePress documentation. In fact, I'll show you real quickly where you would define this. You go to default theme config, and then we go to sidebar, and you'll see all this stuff. You want nested header links, displaying header links, active header links. There's a lot of stuff included in here. This part right here is what we're going to do in order to further customize this sidebar. So what we'll do is we convert it and change it into a object. So we wrap it here in squiggly braces, and then we put in our guide URL, and this accepts an array. And for the first one, it's just going to be empty, and that's simply in reference to guide itself. And then we have front end as well, as you see right here, and also back end. So if we wanted to create links for those pages as well, which sidebar auto didn't generate for us, this is how we would do it. So now if we go back, all right, and there you go. We can see we have our front end development, our back end development. By the way, if you run into issues with this, if something didn't update correctly, for me, originally it wasn't showing the front end development part. I stopped the server, reloaded it, and I refreshed a couple, and it came back and it started working. So there was some issue, and I didn't change the code either, so I don't know exactly what was happening there. But as you can see, when you click on these, it'll show the sub menu. And there's ways to also control this behavior in the sidebar, which I'm not going to get into all of the topics, but all the topics that are pertinent to the sidebar are right here in this area if you want to do something specific. So now let's talk about theming. All right, so we can obviously theme down here. We can, following this information, I'll walk you through how to do the simple CSS overrides as well as the custom page classes. All right, so the first thing we'll do is this is a little bit too large. We're going to go ahead and create an override.style, and that's a stylus file. And stylus is it's a preprocessor for CSS. It's a competitor essentially, or a different version of Sass. And it's I've used it before in the past, but quite limited nature. One of the cool things about it is you can also put in regular CSS styling inside of it. All right, so we do this in the VuePress folder itself. So with it selected, we'll create a new file called override.styl. All right, so Marketplace has an extension for styles files. You can definitely, it's definitely worth installing it. I'm going to reload this real quickly so we have that support already, and we should right there. All right. And now when it comes to theming in the documentation for VuePress, it'll tell you you really need to create two files. One is for overrides, and that will allow you to just override default colors and styles, or mainly just colors. And then also another one that is called style.style. So let's do that one real quick. just like that. So the overrides, and this is coming straight from the documentation, by the way, it'll provide you with this. This is what we're going to paste in. So as you can see, I changed the text color to gray by default right here. And if we save this, and this is another one of those things that it didn't reload right away. So again, I'm going to go ahead and reload this. All right, and momentarily when it gets ready to go, and we'll see, there you go. Now, if you make adjustments to the override style, it will reload automatically. I'm not sure why it's behaving like that. And so then you can also, if you want to make other adjustments, for instance, you want to change anything about this. Let's get out the inspector, Control-Shift-I, and let's say, for instance, we want to change the border on this this search box. We want to make it thicker for whatever reason. We click on it with this little selector icon, and now it's right here, and we can see it is search box class input. So we'll copy that. We'll go back to our style. Now, so this is where we place all of the custom style overrides over here. So search box input, and then we'll just put in, the stylus way of doing this would be no curly brackets. We just tab in, and we can put in border and no colon as well. So it would be 3 pixels solid, I don't know, light gray. So now we hit save, and there you go. It is now bold when it was just 1 pixel before. All right, so that's basically how you change specific CSS properties. But what about in the event that you only want to change something specific on maybe a given page, like front-end development? What if you wanted to change this font color, something simple like this? All right, well, you can specify specific page classes. All right, and you do this in the Frontmatter data in that particular page, like frontend.md. So we go to, let's see here, front end. All right, and the Frontmatter goes up top, and we put in page class and just the name of whatever the class we want it to be. So we'll just call it front end class. And then in override.style, we can put in, let's see here. We reference a theme container. And by the way, when we, theme container is added automatically, and then we can reference our front end class, our custom class. And then inside of there, because we can do nesting here, we can put H1, because that's the element we want to change, that title, and we'll just say something like red. So we'll save this. All right, so now we click on backend development. We can see it's only been applied to that specific class, and you can see the front end class is attached here to the main div that contains everything. So essentially, you reference theme container and front end class, and then whatever element in here that you want to modify. All right, so that's basically it in a nutshell, in a real basic level. There's also other things that you can do that are more advanced, like actually using custom view components that can be integrated and used in these markdown files to create and add kind of dynamic functionality that you would normally have access to with Vue. We're not going to get into that here. I'm going to save that for another tutorial. I mean, I'm pumping content out like 5 days a week, so I can't just do everything, obviously. So let's talk about real quickly about deployment. There's a lot of different options.